people! Tudo bem com vocês? E hoje a gente tá aqui para mais um episódio do Lendo em Inglês. E hoje a gente vai ler o o capítulo 2 do livro The Star Shepherd, ok? A gente tá lendo esse livro aqui juntos, nós já lemos o epílogo e o capítulo 1. E agora a gente vai ler juntos aqui o capítulo 2, beleza? Então eu vou fazer a leitura em voz alta do capítulo em inglês para que vocês consigam acompanhar aí. Quem já adquiriu o e-book ou o livro físico vai acompanhar aí comigo, tá? E quem não pôde adquirir, porque eu sei que o preço tá bem salgado, tá? Eu vou botar na legenda aqui o que tá escrito no capítulo para que vocês consigam ler junto comigo. Daí, quem não conseguiu comprar o livro, pode ir pausando para poder fazer a leitura em voz alta, tá? O link para compra do livro tá aqui na descrição do vídeo. Então, quem quiser adquirir o e-book ou o livro físico para poder fazer essa leitura em conjunto comigo, pode ir aqui na descrição do vídeo e adquirir o livro, tá? Mas é um livro em inglês, é uma compra internacional, então já vou dando a dica aí de que o valor tá bem salgado. Por isso que eu indico que vocês comprem ou o Kindle, né? Se você não puder comprar o físico, ou ir acompanhando aqui através das legendas, beleza? Então, vamos começar a nossa leitura dessa semana do capítulo 2 aqui do The Star Shepherd, tá? Essa aqui é uma personagem nova que vai aparecer, vocês vão conhecer ela agora neste capítulo, ó. Chapter 2. Late in the afternoon the next day, Carol took Cypher and headed for the nearby village of Dren with a pocket full of coins and a heart that was even heavier. He still hadn't heard one word from his father about his retrieval last night. Only, go to the market today, and have you seen my goggles? Sometimes he'd catch his father staring off into space so absent-mindedly that he couldn't possibly be paying attention to the stars. When he'd finally noticed his son, he seemed surprised to find Carol even existed. But at least Carol had Dren. Life passed normally there. People had regular jobs, like bakers and smiths and fishermen, no other star shepherds. And that was how the town liked it. Carol suspected they would have liked it even better if there were no star shepherds near them at all. It was hard to miss the suspicious looks and whispers when his father passed by. It was much better when Carol came to town alone. To the rest of the world, star shepherds were oddities, relics of forgotten times. Some claimed to be descendants of the 7 elders, while others, like Carol's father, had abandoned their old lives to become shepherds. And the rest of the world laughed at them. Most people viewed fallen stars as good luck. They were made from a rare element, one that would fetch a pretty price from the right buyer. The idea of sending it sailing out of reach was mind-boggling for many, and downright infuriating for others. Carol had heard the rumors that his father was hoarding stars in his tower out of greed and not sending them back to the sky at all. It wasn't true, of course, but every unkind word scratched at him like thorns. Still, when the forest broke behind him this afternoon, his heart began to lift until he felt lighter than he had in days. The gates of Dren lay ahead, its wooden wall surrounding the village in both directions until we hit the main road in the east and brushed against forest in the west. Sometimes he thought of Ronvi, the village where he was born. Dren reminded him of it. All those houses, all those bustling people, it was impossible to be truly alone. He missed that. If he was lucky, his friend Andra might be working in her father's bakery this afternoon. She always made Carol laugh. Laughter was in short supply back in the watchtower. He walked through the village gates. Cypher padding after him with his snout in the air and tail wagging. Short houses with red shingled roofs stretched out in row after row on each side. The main thoroughfare led to the village square and the marketplace. Beyond that were the docks and the bay that led to the ocean. Caro could already smell the salt on the air and feel the activity vibrating through the streets as he neared the marketplace. He jangled the coins in his pocket nervously. He really hoped Andra would be there today. His first stop was the grocer, run by an old man who treated Caro with a withering intolerance. They needed groceries to survive, and Caro was always sure to be extra polite to the man, but it never made a difference. Stands of many-colored vegetable and flowers lined the outside of the grocery store to tempt passers-by. When Caro entered, the grocer looked up for a moment, then sighed. Caro's cheeks flamed. He gathered the items they'd need to last them the week and set them on the counter. The old man eyed Caro's groceries from his chair behind the counter. 4 silvers, he said, without getting up. Caro handed over the coins, then took his things and left. Only Andra and sometimes the blacksmith would talk to him. Every other shop was the same story as the grocer. Caro stopped at the butcher, then the tailor to pick up the jacket Tyrant had managed to rip on a tree branch last week. Finally, he only had one stop left, the bakery. His hands grew sleek as he approached the sweet-smelling little shop. He hoped Andra, with her dark hair and clever eyes, was waiting for him behind the counter and not her father. Bolding could be a bit grumpy, especially when it came to Caro and his father. He paused under the bright green awning, and when he opened the door, the familiar peal of the tiny bells rang in his ears. The girl at the counter's face lit up. "Hello, star boy," she said. Caro scuffed his shoe on the floor. Andra always called him that, but it didn't sound mean coming from her lips. "Did you finally get to rescue a star on your own?" she asked. Caro had admitted some weeks ago that he'd been hoping his father would let him go on his own soon, and she'd asked it every week since. This was the first time he could say yes. "I did, and it's back up in the sky now where it belongs." Caro tried to act excited, but his father's lack of reaction had tainted the proud moment. "Was it as glorious as you'd hoped?" she asked. "It sure was." He silently kicked himself. Why hadn't he thought of something better to say? "Are you here for your usual?" "Yes, please." She began to put a few rolls and loaves in a bag for him when a large, round man wearing a dirty apron stomped out from the back room of the shop. Caro's insides squirmed. Bolding glanced back and forth between Caro and his daughter and scowled. "Your mother needs you out back," Bolding said, taking the half-packed bag from his daughter. "But I was almost—" "Now," Bolding said. With a sigh, she headed for the back of the shop, but not before sneaking a parting wink at Caro. He flushed red from head to toe and fumbled for the remaining coins in his pocket. "Hurry up, boy," Bolding said. Caro managed to hand over the coins, and Bolding gave him the bag of goods. "Now, business is business and all, but you best leave my Andra alone, you hear? She doesn't need the likes of you filling her head with silly notions about stars." Caro couldn't find the words to respond. His throat felt thick, and he swallowed hard. Then he shuffled back out the door with Cypher at his side, Bolding's glare burning into his back. "Leave Andra alone? But she's the only one my age who'll talk to me." She's the only one who's kind. Cairo's heart sank into his shoes, but as he passed out of sight of the bakery's windows, he heard "Star Boy" from the alley behind. Andra hung out the back door, waving furiously in his direction. He laughed. "Hey," he said, "sorry my father's such a grump." She walked over with her hands behind her back. "I thought you might like something to celebrate saving the star. Hold out your hand and close your eyes." "All right," Cairo said. Something warm and sweet-smelling wrapped in paper was pressed into his palm. When he opened his eyes, Andrew had disappeared. Maybe today wasn't so bad after all. Cairo hummed on his way out of the marketplace, taking a bite of the chocolate cookie she had given him while Cypher ran in a figure eight between his legs. But as he took the turn toward home, something caught his eye, and he paused to squint at the sky. He snapped on his star-glass goggles and even adjusted them twice, but the object remained. In fact, it was getting closer every second. The bright beaming thing swooped over his head and crashed into the market behind him. Andra, Cairo thought. His cookie forgotten, Cairo raced back to the marketplace, jostling through the townspeople streaming from their shops. Smoke curled from the direction of the bakery, and when he turned the corner, he found the green awning alight with flame. A few feet beyond lay a smoldering crater. A star had fallen in daytime. Cairo had never heard of that happening. Though it was nearly dusk, it still didn't make any sense. Bowden roared from his shop with a huge bucket of water to douse the burning awning before the fire could spread any farther. The crowd murmured and gasped as they drew closer to the crater. "A star! Luke has smiled on our village." Bowden grumbled something about Luke under his breath that made Cairo's ears redden. Cypher yapped and tugged the hem of his pants. Cypher was right. Cairo needed to save that star, but that might mean giving up his groceries. Before he could decide, a new voice rang out from the back of the crowd, his father's familiar form cast a long shadow over the flagstones of the market. Tyrion had arrived to collect the star. E é isso aí, pessoal, mais um capítulo aí, agora a gente conseguiu conhecer aí outros personagens, né, conhecemos a Andra e conhecemos também um pouquinho da vila, né, de Dran, que é ali perto onde fica o Watchtower do Cairo e do Cairo e do pai dele, né? E aí a gente pôde perceber também que a vila não gosta muito dos dois, que essa coisa de ser Star Shepherd é meio que olhada como uma coisa ruim, assim, né? Eu achei que eles provavelmente eram, tipo, heróis que salvavam as estrelas, mas de acordo com o capítulo 2, não. As pessoas não gostam muito dessa coisa de ser Star Shepherd, tem preconceito e tudo mais, né? Tem até uns rumores ali, umas fake news sobre eles. Então, a gente conseguiu conhecer também qual que é a noção da sociedade em relação aos Star Shepherds. E caiu uma estrela lá no meio da vila, né? No final ali do capítulo. Então, vamos ver no capítulo 3 como que vai se desenrolar essa história dessa estrela caída lá na vila, né? Espero que o pessoal do vilarejo comece a reconhecer, né, a profissão de Star Shepherd aí como importante, já que o pai do Cairo, o Tyrion, apareceu lá para recolher a estrela que caiu e começou a tirar fogo na vila. Pessoal, então é isso aí, espero que eu tenha ajudado vocês aí na leitura do capítulo desse livro, espero que vocês estejam gostando, né, desse novo formato aí do Lendo em Inglês, e a gente vai continuar lendo aí toda segunda-feira um capítulo desse livro, E amanhã tem podcast. E aí, se você gostou desse vídeo, clique em gostei, que isso me ajuda bastante. Se inscreva no canal. Se você já é inscrito, clica no sininho para poder você receber notificação todas as vezes que eu postar, né, algum vídeo novo. E a gente vai se falar nos próximos vídeos. Tchau!